Distinguished guests, welcome to the 2022 MICHauto Annual Briefing presented by Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Office of Future Mobility and Electrification. Please welcome the Chief Mobility Officer of the state of Michigan, Trevor Paul.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Is there a better way to end the day than a MICHauto meeting? I don't think so. Seriously, I hope this is the best hour of your day. Welcome. It's so good to see everybody in person. Again, my name is Trevor Paul. I'm the Chief Mobility Officer for the state of Michigan. And my goal here is to get you fired up about what you're about to hear. No doubt, we're living in some strange times, some complicated times on many fronts. Two of those fronts, mobility and electrification. But rest assured, Michigan still remains the leader in moving people and goods. It contributes $125 billion to our state economy, which is about a quarter of our state gross, our gross state product, right? And there's a MICHauto report. 1 in every 5 jobs in the state is mobility-based. These are jobs building affordable EVs, smarter roads, better transit. But as you all know, new jobs are just not enough. We also need to have a talented, skilled workforce, and that's an intangible that I believe gives Michigan its edge. However, there's global competition that's heating up. And without a thoughtful and aggressive approach, we do stand a chance of losing our global position. Good thing for you, we got Glenn, Charlie, Quentin, our esteemed panel, and Jenny. All of these people are both thoughtful and aggressive. And as you listen today, I want you to look for 3 key points or themes that you're going to hear, through lines you're going to hear. The first is that we need to continue to focus on securing good-paying local manufacturing jobs as the industry transitions to electric. Second, we need to focus on high-tech talent, building the state's software prowess. And third, we need to create safer, greener, better infrastructure and transit and livable communities. You need all of those things to claim greater shares of value in the EV supply chain and also the minds that come with that. So, good news is, early returns, the state's already thinking about it in those 3 ways. So since 2019, we've seen auto companies in Michigan create 25,000 jobs. We've seen General Motors make the largest investment in its history right here in Michigan. We've seen the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity create the new Michigan Electric Vehicle Jobs Academy, which will be hell-bent on helping industry transition those workers all over the state. And in turn, we have MEDC, which created Quentin, under Quentin's leadership, a new Chief Talent Solutions Officer and a whole new approach to customer service as it relates to working with companies who have talent needs. And then on the software front, oh man, we got something happening down at Michigan Central. You're going to hear more about it today, but there's a really cool partnership with the state, the city of Detroit, Ford, Google to create or attract 5,000 tech jobs to Corktown, Michigan Central. How cool is that? And you have MICHauto focused on high-tech talent growth, and that's a solid 1-2 punch as we go out and compete globally. And finally, we are putting out the call to the best engineers and their companies all over the world. Come to Michigan, help us solve our mobility challenges. Help us break down mobility barriers, correct systemic inequities. And so through the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification, we have a grant platform, the Michigan Mobility Funding Platform, that will literally if a company and engineers come and work with a community, doesn't matter what it could be last mile transit, it could be cybersecurity, it could be installing charging stations in rural areas, we will provide a grant for that company and that community to work together to create the technology that will move our communities into the 21st century. So in closing, look, global mobility, it's a juggernaut, man. It changes every day. But the one thing that remains the same is that it rewards places with the right combinations of workforce, technology, infrastructure, and transit. And by embracing all of those things, we're creating something bigger than the sum of its parts, something that's uniquely Michigan. And look, the future isn't just something tomorrow's leader is just going to enter. It's something that today's leaders create. You're creating it here today. You're continuing the conversation. And with that, I'm gonna say on with the show. VOG, take it home. Give us Glenn Stevens.
Please welcome the Executive Director of MICHauto and Vice President of Automotive and Mobility Initiatives for the Detroit Regional Chamber, Glenn Stevens, Jr.
Now you know why he goes first. Thanks, Trevor. We had a great meeting today with his team, and We've got some big things coming. We're going to talk a little bit about them today, but a couple housekeeping things. First of all, thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. This is a great new venue. I like that the bar was open early. It'll be open late too, so please stick around. But I want to thank the Office of Future Mobility, the MEDC, Dykema, Multimatic, Fakori Global Immigration, and Phoenix Contact. Thank you so much for supporting this event. Really appreciate it. And also want to recognize, just going to ask you to stand real quick, but the MICHauto, a lot of the MICHauto board members are here. Lisa Lunsford is our chair, but if those on the board, if you could just stand real quick, we really appreciate your support. Raj, Lisa, Steve's here. So what I want to do is set the stage, and I'm going to start in Nashville, but I'm not going to start with a battery plant. I'm going to start with an announcement that was made in downtown Nashville in April of 2021. Oracle is building an 8,500 person high-tech digital campus right in downtown Nashville. And the reason they're doing that is because of the concentration of community, place, and high-tech talent that is starting to grow there, and this is a significant investment. I just want to put a placeholder on that, and if you look at the average salary of those jobs, it's $110,000 a year. Now, closer to home, we have had great news. Trevor mentioned it. You know, January, General Motors plans to announce the battery plant and the Orion upgrade for EV manufacturing. Extremely significant event. And anybody who doesn't think that was an event that's significant, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here a little bit today, we have 12 assembly plants in Michigan. Already some of them are fully electrified, and over time they all will hopefully be fully electrified. And the supply chain and the infrastructure that goes around those plants and their solidification for the future is extremely important to this state. But 2 or 3 days after that announcement, on LinkedIn, Mary Barra posted this post, and she said, "We're building the all-electric future and hiring 8,000 new high-tech roles." That's the ad that she posted that day, and she talked about when she started at General Motors, out of GMI, now Kettering, and why she stayed. And that, yeah, those of you who are working with General Motors know that they are full court press. But these 8,000 high-tech workers, they can work anywhere. They can work in Michigan, they can work in Warren, they can work in Grand Rapids, they can be anywhere. It's incumbent upon us to make sure that as many as possible work here in Michigan. Why? I love this visual. I know many of you have seen this before, but this is one we use actually with the legislators and others to just visually show how much the vehicle is changing. On the left is the F-150 as we know it, have known it for decades, and on the right is the frunk of the F-150 Lightning. The talent, the supply chain, the policy, so many different things are going to change because of this industry's transition. The other part of the vehicle that's just changing so fast, it's unbelievable, is the connectivity, the computer, the telecommunications. So in 1970, 5% of the cost of the vehicle was in the electronics. In just a few short years, 30% of the vehicle and 50% in 2030 is going to be in electronics. So when you think about that, think about the talent that's required to make these transitions and these changes. Now, why are the OEMs and everyone doing this? Well, just in subscription services, look at the market. Today, it's about a $6 billion global OEM market. In 2030, $30 billion of subscription services are projected to be available to those companies, and those companies that are suppliers and technology partners with them. So, one of the reasons we're here today is to talk about what organizations, companies, educational institutions are doing to prepare our digital workforce. And positioning Michigan as a tech hub is extremely important. And we're really not viewed as that, even though we know it's here. We know that the density of engineering is incredible, but the software density is going to be needed too. Now listen, other states and regions want a piece of this. These are initiatives just in the Midwest and the Mid-South around technology, tech hub corridors. And I'll talk about two very specifically because they are our two closest neighbors. One is Ontario, the Waterloo-Cambridge. They've branded and positioned it as the corridor. And when you look at these maps of the companies that are located here, and on the far right is only AI type related companies. This is the corridor in Ontario. And I was actually at a meeting several years ago in Windsor when the auto industry came together and said, look, we realize the assembly production base that we've lost. We don't want to lose any more, but we've got to evolve with the way the industry and the vehicle, and this is what they've been doing. And this one is relatively new. This is in Ohio. This is a new initiative called Ohio X. And it is simply put, you can read it, but it is simply to build Ohio into a tech hub. And I don't have a slide in it, but if you look at the analysis and the reasons why Intel, located in Columbus, a very large part of it was because the universities and community college and educational institutions banded together to make sure that the tech support was going to be there to that facility. And an Intel plan in Ohio is labs to fabs. The average salary of the 3,000 jobs is $130,000 in that plant. So let me talk to you a little bit about what we've been doing to set the stage for kind of the rest of the conversation. Some of you saw this slide at Mackinac, but one of the things we set out to do when we founded MICHauto was to make sure that it had continuity, staying power, life. So through 3 governors, lots of leaders, this MEDC leader is going to be here for the next 20 years, so I won't have to update this slide. But we've gone through a lot of leadership change at the state. The point is we have to have continuity around our tech development and our talent development. Our work is pretty much centered on these things: advocacy, convening power, next generation mobility, and talent. The events we have throughout the year, including this one, are ones that you can come to, our initiatives, and this drumbeat continues throughout the year. But one of the things that we've been really focused on talent, and Paul Corbett, who heads up our government affairs, has been very active in more funding for Going Pro, because that's important, right? The other thing that we've been focused on, and Lisa's been involved in this, is making sure that the industry looks like the world looks. So we've led with Katie of the CEO Coalition for Change, a very important initiative led by executives to make sure that we're changing the industry and the inclusion and the diversity factors as much as we can. And these CEOs get together on a quarterly basis and they just share best practices. It's a very powerful, powerful forum. And another thing that we've done this year in the past, and Devin O'Reilly helped lead this, we created the Innovator Exchange. And I know some of these companies are here today, and some of you have supported these companies with sponsorships. But these companies here are all startups. And what we did is we put them right into the MICHauto community, and their founders or their CEOs or their presidents are at the table with all the other OEMs and CEO executives from the suppliers. So we call it the Innovator Exchange, and it's been a very successful program, and there's a lot of good things that are happening with these companies. But our most important focus has been on the pipeline. And our work is really broken into 3 areas. The focus we do, and Carly Grace leads our Discover Auto program, where we look at how do we change perceptions and attract people, K through 12. I'm going to come back to the Michigan High Tech Talent Initiative. That's when we're looking at the high-tech skills that are needed. And then our Let's Detroit program, which you're going to hear about at the end, about attraction and talent and retention for our industry and our region. So that image and that attraction is very important. We piloted a program in the past year called Discover Auto, You Drive the Future, and we're looking to scale this up on all social media based. And earlier last year, we started convening about 15, 20 different organizations. Almost all of you are here today, and thank you for being part of these. We met monthly. We talked about what the work is that you were all doing, and we said, what can we do collectively, and what should we be focused on to move the high-tech talent sector in Michigan? So this group of companies has been organized, and we've come up with 4 projects and work streams that were in very, very strong negotiations with the state, and specific with the Office of Future Mobility. We just met on it today with Trevor. And we've got some really exciting plans to come here. I wish I could unveil it all today, but that's the teaser for the next time we get together. So why? Okay, I think you know these numbers. I think there's a lot of good things, but we also have to recognize that our workforce is mature. We're 31st in educational attainment. We have a lot of factors that need to be fixed and addressed in the state because the businesses need it. And our career counselors to student ratio is 49th in the country. I put this up there because many of you hear me talk about this very frequently. So that's kind of setting the stage. These initiatives on the top, you're going to hear about some of these are initiatives that are in progress, in play right now. There's a couple with the Detroit Regional Partnership and our High Tech Talent Initiative that are formulating right now. The good news is everybody's communicating, and we're all talking to be aligned. So you're going to hear a little bit more about this today. I wanted to set the stage. Thanks for coming, and we'll get on with the program.
The next session of the program is sponsored by Dykema. Please welcome the Senior Vice President of Human Resources for Bosch North America, Charlie Ackerman.
Okay, so thank you, Glenn. What an opportunity and a great pleasure to be here and actually speaking to you. Today, I wear two hats. One's with Bosch, but the other that you'll see is the Michigan Mobility Talent Consortium, and it's a group of industry leaders coming together, talking about what our real pain points are. And what I want to do today is I want to share with you what those pain points are, but also I think there's somewhere close to about 70 people in this room, and I hope to be able to inspire you to get involved in a different way than maybe you've not been in the past. So it's very, very important that the message that I deliver today, you're going to, maybe they need to get a hook to pull me off of the stage a little bit because I'm so passionate about this particular topic. So, yes. Number one, many of you know since 1997, the war for talent has been underway. 1997. Do I know this? And how do I know this? Is because that is when they coined the term war for talent, over 25 years ago. Now, it's interesting is that we all feel today that this war is raging like we've never experienced it before. Truly, we see this. Turnover is up, the great resignation, and so forth. And we're really, really challenged by this. When we begin to think now what it is that we're beginning to see and feel, I would suggest to you this, that the talent shortage is actually more important as the number one priority than the semiconductor chip shortage. It's just different. It's a shortage. We see talent shortage, we see the chip shortage. But this is the way that we see it in our world. Now, but why do I say this? Is because if you think about the chip shortage, the root cause of that was a lack of supply, a global lack of capacity. It's really what it was. But it's quite interesting is that the product has significant specific specifications, and guess what? The production of those chips occurs between 3 and 6 months, and then we're done. Many of you know, if you're in the automotive industry, you already know that the capacity issue has already been somewhat mitigated. We're coming out of the shortage of the chip loss in the third quarter of 2022. Already, we're already beginning to see this. But when you look at the talent shortage, we've been dealing with this for now the last 25 years. And do we see how we're actually going to be able to resolve that? And how long does it actually take to produce talent? Sometimes 12 years, sometimes 14 years. It really changes. In this particular space is what we have to work on. And we believe that through the Michigan Mobility Talent Consortium, we believe that there's a pathway to make that happen with your involvement on that. So, one of the things that I'd like for you to think about is, and envision a bridge of connectivity, a bridge that actually produces and builds talent over those years. And try to imagine how many students are actually on that bridge today. In the state of Michigan, 1.5 million students every year. And there are 116,000 teachers trying to help those students get across that bridge to the other side, and guess what? That's where the employers are sitting there and say, please come to work for me. Now, it's not only the mobility industry, but try to imagine that. Try to imagine that bridge. And you know what? The real question is, where are you? Are you helping those students get along that bridge? Develop? Are you helping the teachers? Are you helping the guidance counselors? If you're not, at this point in time, the question could be, what more can we do? And that's what I want to be able to leave you with, is a way to actually get engaged. And industry is ready to make that happen. So, first off, back up. A little bit about Bosch and why this is so important to us. First off, this is a global snapshot of who Bosch is. Many of you know us by name, but you really don't know who we are. We are the largest automotive supplier in the world. And what you'll see is on the left-hand side of this chart, you'll see the business sectors that we're in: the mobility sector, industrial technology, building and energy, and also in consumer goods. Now, 60% of our business is in the mobile sector, and we're worldwide. And we like to tout this aspect of $7.2 billion in research and development. That's what gives us our DNA. That's what gives us our culture. That's also these number of engineers, these software engineers that we have globally, and we have those actually represented here in North America as well. And when we look at North America, we represent about 16 to 18% of that global share of revenue. 4,000 associates are right here in Michigan. 40% of those are in the space of engineering or with some kind of background in engineering. 40% of that. When we start looking at how we're growing our organization, do we really have the talent for sustainability over time? We're a bit alarmed. I'm the Chief Human Resources Officer for Bosch North America, responsible for the US, Canada, and Mexico. And when my colleagues ask me in Germany, Charlie, do you have the sustainability to be able to get the talent that you need in the state of Michigan? I'm sitting there saying yes, but then I'm saying, well, I'll have to go do something about that. Those types of questions are the things that I get hit with. Do we really have the need, the capability? Yes, we do. I truly believe that, but it's going to take a partnership between three principles, and we'll get to that in a second. Now, I continue to hear this a little bit like the transition to the BEV or the battery electric vehicle. What this chart depicts is what we see from 2020 to 2030 relative to the transfer of the ICE, internal combustion engine, over to the battery electric vehicle. And what you'll see there is that 2/3 by 2030 is still petroleum-based or the internal combustion engine. Just 1/3 is in the electric vehicle or battery. Having said that, it's important that what the slide does not say is the total ecosystem around the car. Automated car, connected car, shared mobility, and all the solutions associated with that ecosystem. And it is not necessarily manufacturing, but still the talent needs are still there. Software development. And when we start looking at the top level of the types of knowledge that we're looking for software engineers, obviously. We're looking for coding. We're looking for system architecture. We're looking for system design, and we're looking for domain knowledge. We've got the Bosch knowledge, but 80% of what we're looking for, we don't have, and we're looking outside the organization. And if we can't get that, we're also trying to build that for ourselves through apprenticeship programs. And I'll tell you, that's some heavy lifting already. But that's the main point with this piece. Now, the problem and the shortage of talent has been exacerbated because of COVID. 3.9 million job resignations across the United States in 2021. 1.5 job openings are currently out on the market today. 40% of the core skills are projected to change by 2025. What is the school systems doing to stay relevant and timely with those skills that we're basically seeing? You see the speed at which we're moving? It's a real challenge. And then, of course, high-tech and digitalization talent. The next thing is that this is the summary that I have to really say as the problem. The automotive and mobility industry needs more talent than Michigan is developing right now. What you'll see is a list of items here, And you'll see at the very bottom, and it's actually out there on the Michigan School Data website. The most stark component is 45% or 55,000 students go to college, whether it's post-secondary, technical college, or whatever. But at the end of the day, there's 45,000. Where are they going? What are they doing? How are they being prepared? What are they doing next? How do we capture those students? And only 15% of those students are in STEM curriculum. We see that as a bit of a concern. And if you go deeply into the data on that website, you'll begin to see that, did you know where the real fallout rate begins? In 3rd grade. Did you know that reading proficiency at the 3rd grade is only at 43%? 43%? Reading proficiency? There is not a job that I have that you can come into our facility without understanding how to read. Same thing with math skills. And it's quite interesting, if you look at the data, you will see that in the last 7 years, that we have actually gone from 50% proficiency down now to 43% proficiency. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. And that's the issue. That's what we're seeing. That's why we have to, we call it the burning bridge at this point in time. The call to action is now. This is the solution. Bringing industry, education, and government together at every forum. Let me ask you the question. How many in here represent the state of Michigan? You work for the state of Michigan. Raise a hand. 3. Okay. At least you're here. Right? How many represent education? Raise a hand. Excellent. How many are in industry? Obviously the rest, right? That is a great start, and that's where MICHauto gets it. They're beginning to bring these 3 circles together and talk about a core of talent. That's why we really appreciate what Glenn and his organization is doing. And what has to happen is that at every opportunity where industry has the ability to open our doors, bring teachers into our facilities, bring students, bring guidance counselors in, they don't have to be told by somebody else. They can actually see it. They can work side by side if that is what we need to do, to build that bridge, to help them better understand what it's like to see how the technology is changing so rapidly. This is the talent pipeline that what the MMTC, the Michigan Mobility Talent Consortium, is focused on. We want to grow the pipeline. That's what we're trying to do. We want to increase that pipeline by 50%. And the way to go about that is through transparency of getting students in STEM, and then from the elementary level, middle school, high school, is literally continue to monitor that and get involved. What that picture looks like is industry is on the bridge. Industry is at the bottom, at the foundation. Industry is working with the state of Michigan and educators to see what it is really like to be in these facilities. Shorten the connectivity of those bridges. That's exactly what our vision is. And we can do this. These are the companies that are already involved and coming together on a bi-monthly basis, talking about how we're doing this. With the MEDC sitting at the table, with the MDE sitting at the table, CTE sitting at the table. We're already doing it, and we need more. And that's your call of action. The last point is this. Michigan has a challenge, and we're up for that challenge. And I truly believe in a recipe for success. The recipe for success has 3 ingredients. Believe in a purpose that's bigger than one person can do alone. The next ingredient is believe in others. Because if you don't believe in others, you can't do number 1. And then the final recipe or the ingredient is to truly believe that you can. Build that bridge. That is our call. That is our challenge. And with that, thank you very much.
Please welcome the Chief Executive Officer of Michigan Economic Development Corporation and President and Chair of the Michigan Strategic Fund, Quentin Messer, Jr.
Well, thank you. I was going to say how kind Glenn Stevens has been to me. He was one of the first people I met, but I'm not sure having me go after Charlie and then Trevor and then him, whether that was a good deal or not. But let's hope I don't strike out in the four hole. So let us begin here. So I'm a big sports fanatic, and one of the things that is very apparent is that Michiganders are obsessed with winning. And I know that sometimes doesn't feel that way, but the reality of it is, if you look at the rich tradition of the athletic programs, our professional programs, although we might be rebuilding for the Detroit professional sports fans, you can see there's winning at all levels, both in our public and private universities. So why is this important? As Charlie mentioned, it's about belief. You can't accomplish until you believe. And so we at MEDC are very focused on building a championship economy, coming alongside our partners, and that relentless focus on winning is what guides us. So hard work remains. Trevor, as well as Glenn, talked about some of the things we've accomplished. Charlie gave you a very sobering assessment of what the opportunities that remain for us. We did have the largest investment by General Motors. LG Energy Solution invested in Holland. We are seeing more opportunities come into EV and mobility-based venture capital organizations. Trevor's team at the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification, shout out to him and Ryan Michael, and I also think Drew Coleman, who will be sort of migrating elsewhere in the ecosystem, is also here. But the whole point of that is, whether it's Assembly Ventures and others, I don't know whether Chris and any of his teammates are here, the fact is all the elements are here to build that championship economy. So despite progress, we need to keep our foot on the gas, or metaphorically, we need to keep our foot on the accelerator as we transition. So this slide is really a function of, in summation, of what I think Glenn showed you in the beginning. We see a concentration of what used to be something we took for granted. The concentration here in Michigan is now becoming much more dispersed. I moved up from Louisiana, and I can tell you, Louisiana and Florida, my home state, are the only two southern states without an OEM. Florida, in part, because they're not really interested. Florida thinks they're special, and they've got everything. And Louisiana, because, and the only reason, because we've tossed and be willing to offer hundreds of millions of dollars. Louisiana is one of those states in which the population is in the south, and it's on a hurricane corridor. And so the reality of it is, competition is becoming very intense. And so we have to make sure that we win in order to make sure that we can sustain what has been part of Michigan for generations. Oops, let me go back. So, what's the number one asset in any of your companies? It's the people. And so we know that economic development only matters to the extent that it transforms the lives of Michiganders. There are 10 million plus of us who live on two of the most beautiful peninsulas anywhere in the world. And so we have to prepare to make sure that we're ready to have the talent, as Charlie talked about it, the call to action for this e-mobility transition. I'm sure that these slides will be shared with you, but as you can see, we have all the elements here in Michigan. 96 of the top 100 automotive suppliers. This industry represents 20% or 1/5 of all Michigan jobs. The industry is undergoing a transition. We see what's at stake every day. It's almost like reading the box scores. This state has won this one, this state has won that one, but it really is, over the next 18 to 20 months, it will decide the next 20 years. Just the scope of the investments, whether it's Bosch or some of the other companies represented in this room are being made. I haven't done yet, right? I already got I thought I was looking at the time. I feel like I'm in church with the preachers looking at they got you on the clock here. But the other thing is, we know that if we are going to continue to win, It's going to be because we won in the first place. Talent, problem solving, ingenuity. And that's what we still have in spades. Add to a work ethic, a sense of humility. I like our chances, but as Charlie, Trevor, and Glenn have indicated, it's not going to happen accidentally. It's going to require intentional engagement by each and every one of us. So, Glenn mentioned, we recently, in fact, if she were here, she would remind me, Carrie Ambrosall Singh, who was formerly at Leo, came to MEDC on November 29th. She remembers the date because as soon as she walked in the door, I said, Carrie, solve it all. No, I didn't actually say that. But the point was, if we can't keep saying the talent is fundamentally one of the most important things and not have a senior leader who wakes up every day thinking about how to come alongside the Bosches, your company, MICHauto. I see fellow board members from the Michigan Strategic Fund, Dr. Brittany Affolter-Kane in the back. Wave your hand as if you have no concern about the consequences. And there she is. She represents the 3R1 research universities. It's going to take all of us. I met a young woman from the Oakland schools here. It's going to take all of us coming together to make sure that we can address the challenge that Charlie has. Because let's just be blunt. Charlie won't say it, I'll say it. If we in Michigan do not address Charlie's concerns, he's got other options. As he mentioned, he's responsible for talent all over North America. He mentioned it's not just US, he's got facilities and opportunities in both Canada and Mexico. And those places are ramping up and making sure that they're going to be as competitive in this battle for talent. And so we have to make sure we do that. And so one of the things that Carrie did upon coming here was creating this talent action team. Their 4 objectives: provide employers with a full-scale offering, create rapid, more diverse pipeline of talent, and prepare to market, as well as make Michigan the destination of choice, not only for employers, but also for the talent. So what we'll be able to achieve with this talent action team. This talent action team has 15 industry partners. The Boston Consulting Group has come alongside of us to make sure that this happens. But this is what can be accomplished. And I really want to focus on the top of the 5 of the 6 items, future-proof Michiganders. If there's one thing that we learned from the tragedy of COVID-19, aside from the loss of life, the way it affected our families, we realized there were certain occupations, certain jobs, entire job categories that were very vulnerable to technological change. We saw that it disproportionately affected women and people of color. And so we need to make sure that we create a state of lifelong learners. That's something that Governor Whitmer has been very vocal about, very strong, whether it's Future for Frontliners, 60 by 30, and other initiatives, but also it enjoys bipartisan support on our legislators. We have to develop the best pools of talent. I think Charlie spoke incredibly passionately and profoundly about that. We have to foster the most competitive auto ecosystem in the nation. MICHauto is the best at doing that. We have to provide a solid recruitment and investment strategy in Michigan. We can't just assume that whether it's the big 3 or the large tier 1, tier 2, and some of the tier 3 suppliers, we've got to go out and earn it every day. We also have to construct a moat to ensure that those that currently know us stay here and reinvest with us. Many of you are always looking at your profitability, and we all know the cost of customer acquisition is high. We feel like if we can deepen the relationships, those companies that are already here, will be better than necessarily going out and reintroducing ourselves to new people. Not that we're averse to that. We also have to provide a blueprint for sustainable growth. The key thing about EV and mobility is the spin-off effects. How many people have come to Michigan because someone in their family worked or adjacent to or in this industry. And those individuals, Motown in some respect, the food culture. There's a lot of work, whether it's in life sciences and other areas, because of people coming here. So it really does provide the seedbed for attracting people who are going to transform Michigan in other industries as well. So with that, I've got time on the clock. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. It is very true that we have hard work ahead of us, but I want to leave you with 3 thoughts. One, when we come together, we can provide and create remarkable things very quickly. 2, we must believe, and I ask all of you to be ambassadors for Michigan. I have one question when I go around and ask people. How many of you have ever been on a plane next to a Texan? If you've ever been on a plane next to a Texan and you don't have on noise-canceling headphones, and he or she doesn't have on noise-canceling headphones, what will they convince you of? Texas. And they did that right after their electric grid failed with a dusting, something that people here would just laugh off. But there's something powerful about what we put out in the world about our state, and particularly with young people who are listening to us. And so I would beg of you to really rethink how you're framing the narrative about our great state. And the final thing, Charlie gave the call to action. I will come alongside, along with Glenn and Trevor. We need to make sure that we engage young people and those who are young in heart to become lifelong learners, to embrace what has made Michigan, Michigan, which is innovation. So thank you very much. And now, the next speaker. Where's the VOG? I'm a little early, so.
This session is sponsored by Multimatic. Please welcome the Vice President of Sales for Multimatic, Brian Burke. The Dave House Dean of Computing at Michigan Technological University, Dennis Levisi. The Startup and Entrepreneur Engagement of Michigan Central Development, Roshni Shokar. The Director of Career Technical Education and Early Middle College at Wayne Westland Community Schools, Jacinda Shumara. And back to moderate the discussion, Glenn Stevens, Jr.
It is bright up here. Thanks. So before we get going, I want to underscore something that Quentin mentioned, but I think we have to understand that the MEDC has a chief talent officer now. Now that's never been done before. That's significant right there. And Carrie she's the real deal. She's collaborative. We work with her. I think we talk about every day. She texted today and said, sorry she can't be here, but she's working on another initiative. So I think it's really encouraging that we have that at the state. So kudos to you, Quentin, for putting that in place. So let's jump into some discussion. But before we do that, I think it's important for everybody to get to know you guys. So Jacinda, I'm going to start with you. And just tell people a little bit about where you're from and what you do, what your role in the ecosystem is here. I'll try not to use ecosystem too much.
Hi, I'm Jacinda Samara. I'm the Director of Career Technical Education and Early Middle College for Wayne Westland Schools. We are reimagining and transforming the K-12 learning experience to really focus on engaging kids into answering the question of what do I want to be when I grow up and how do I get there.
And where are you from originally? I mean, from
Originally, I was born in San Diego. My family relocated here right around high school, and I've stayed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Roshni?
Yeah, hi, I'm Roshni Shokar. I'm from the Chicago suburbs, but I moved to Detroit 4 years ago. And I am leading startup engagement for Michigan Central. Michigan Central is an open innovation district that is being created in Corktown and Southwest Detroit, centered around the historic Michigan Central train station. And so we're really creating a world-class community at the future of mobility and society.
And Dennis?
Hi everyone, my name is Dennis Levisi. I'm probably the newest Michigander up here. I've been here for about a year and a half. Before this, I was in Kansas. So I'm the Dean of the College of Computing at Michigan Tech. Of those 3 circles, education piece is probably the slowest to move, and specifically the higher ed piece is the slowest to move within that larger education piece. Michigan Tech, we did something that is really significant. We reorganized the whole university and created Michigan's first and only college of computing to prepare for that digital pivot, that digital future that we've all been talking about.
Kansas to Houghton.
Well, LA to Charlotte to Kansas to Houghton.
Okay. Houghton, that's a big
Yeah,
change.
yeah, that's wasn't on one of our maps.
Yes, it did. I saw that.
Yeah.
Brian.
I'm Brian Burke. I'm the Vice President of Multimatic. I handle our product services group, which is all our future business going out, usually 2025 and further. Born and raised a Michigander, so yay. And I've lived around the world, but really, I think Michigan is one of the most underrated states around. I've lived in California and Italy and Germany, and I love Michigan. We have a really cool spot here. So.
And you used to race. Tell us what you used to race, because I've heard a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I did spend a little time in professional racing. I raced in the Cooper Tires USF 2000 Championship. I did a little racing in Europe. Yeah, I raced as a professional race car driver for a couple of years.
It's pretty cool.
And then I outgrew myself.
So we've got 3 people who moved here. So we're net 3 positive here in Michigan here. So that's great. Thank you to all of you for being here. We want to talk a little bit about, I'd kind of like to get your reaction to what you heard already today. Some of the setting of the stage. Charlie and Quentin, thank you. Thank you very much. But I'll start with you, Brian. I mean, when you look at what you heard tonight, well, we talk about the tech talent stuff, you and I, all the time, but what makes you, your company or you, or what do you think we need to have a sense of urgency or action about?
Well, I think the group has really hit the nail on the head with some of the downstream talent acquisition. I think getting people excited at the early engagement, like at the elementary schools and high schools, and creating a sense of what we actually do is really cool in terms of automotive innovation and things like that. So I think we've really hit the nail on the head there. In our company specifically, we're struggling to get just young talent in general, but specifically what everybody's talked about, software, controls engineers, all the things that are necessary for autonomous driving and all the things that we're doing with electrification. Those are clearly the shortfalls that we have right now.
And you've got some pretty high-tech, cool equipment in Michigan and Ontario that might be interesting to people. You've talked about a little. Have you had students come in and see that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's been a great thing. The MEDC was awesome in getting us a grant. We put one of the most technologically advanced automotive simulators in Novi. It's a $5 million partnership with VI Grade. And we've had Formula SAE students, actually. We have a great program for SAE students to come in at the college level and learn how that virtual engineering tool works. It's really a critical tool to the clock speed that's necessary for innovation in the automotive industry to get products to production quicker. And yeah, it's been a great tool and weapon for us. We've even had some younger kids. A couple weeks ago, we had an 8-year-old kid come check out the simulator as part of a little outreach thing that we did. So yeah, we're trying to get the message out there on that virtual engineering technology.
Great. Dennis, thoughts?
Yeah, so the collaboration piece really resonates with me. We have to have deeper collaborations between industry and higher ed. The war for talent in the computing space and the software development space, right? It's across the globe and in geographic regions. It's across every industry. 10 years ago, I used to talk about every discipline being a computing discipline. And it was kind of a bromide. It was kind of a bumper sticker. But it's true now, right? It's happening everywhere, whether it be healthcare, whether it be retail, agriculture. And frankly, the mobility space isn't sort of front of mind for a lot of students who are in computing at that age, right? They're thinking about sort of the sexiest companies in the country, the Googles, Amazons. So how do we get them to think about Ford and GM and Stellantis? One of the things we got to do is create opportunities for the students to work in that space while they're students. Think of this as sort of co-op programs on steroids, right? Can we get students working as supplemental employees within the company, have a wraparound set of infrastructure to make sure that they can maintain their rigorous academic studies as well as working within the company? We're piloting a program like that with Ford right now. We have students who are doing this work. In Kansas, we did this where I was at, where it was really driven in the larger digital engineering space. At Wichita State, which is sort of the Detroit of aerospace. And that was really driven around proximity. But in the computing space and software engineering, we don't need to be co-located. We can do this anywhere. And so we can create those partnerships. And we want to do this in an open source model. We want to do it with Ford, and we want to do it with other companies, and we want them to go work with other institutions, right? Because we can't meet the needs of the tech talent going forward doing it alone. And so that call for cooperation just resonates very strongly with me.
What resonated with you, Roshni?
I completely agree with Dennis on the cooperation and working together across the ecosystem. The other thing that I think really resonated with me is, so I spend a lot of time working with startups to help them launch pilots in Michigan, and I'm thinking through then what's the next step? Like, how do we get them to open an office here or stay here or do something more than just launching a pilot and leaving? And I think talent is a huge part of that. So not only connecting all of the different organizations working on building talent, but then also connecting that with our business attraction efforts of how do we keep companies here or attract them here through showing that we have that amazing talent pool.
Yeah, that whole piece about new innovation needs to be just right part of this equation. I mean, we all know 120, 180 or 80 years ago, that's what built this city. Were people who had new ideas who came together to build an industry. As the industry transitions, that innovation piece is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've been really thinking about what Charlie said about K-12 belonging at the table. And for a long time, we weren't invited to the table. So it's really exciting that we're starting to get into that space. It's caused us to do a lot of curriculum redesign, program redesign, and it is really going to change the talent that's available to you in the near future.
So what could we do if you had unlimited funds, or we could waive that? What would you like to do more of in just your district itself to get that pipeline widened and get more students in it?
So we started with redesigning our 9 through 12 experience, the total secondary redesign. So essentially, we took all of our career technical education classes that used to be 2-year programs, and we've condensed the curriculum into 1 year. We perhaps don't go as deep as we did, but we've made it more robust. We've attached industry certifications, college credits, all of that to all of those courses, allowing the senior year to be an unduplicated senior year. So basically a choose your own adventure. So if you as a industry partner had come to us and maybe sparked a kid's interest, the student could actually go out and, instead of coming to our building during their senior year, come and work for you 24 hours a week, totally at your service to grow and get some roots into your company. But also, as we're looking at what that is, we're also, since we're being invited into companies and to see what the talent that you need is going to be in the future, it's causing us to think forward about what should our 3rd and 4th graders be doing? What should our 5th and 6th graders be doing? One of the reasons I'm in Blue Jeans right now is we had 300 3rd through 5th graders in there today building little battery cells and little electric vehicles. It was a hot mess, but they had a lot of fun, and so they're really excited about this space, but we really need your help to take this fun little activity where they spend a day on one of my campuses and to see how it transfers, that this can actually be something that I want to do when I grow up.
How are we doing in your district, but as a whole? I mean, you saw my numbers, the career counseling and the life counseling. How are we doing in your district, and is that something that you just think that we need to be investing more as a state?
We need to be investing in the state in career counselors, in any programs that can really elevate career-focused readiness for our students. Michigan has implemented a system called Education Development Planning, which requires all kids to go through activities to get them thinking about what it really is that they want to be when they grow up. However, it really varies by district on the depth and the breadth of what is happening. That's one of the reasons Wayne Westland is really innovative. Our superintendent is all about career readiness. What is it going to take to get our kids, not across the graduation stage, but what do they look like 5 years after they leave us?
Okay. Dennis, so after you got this huge pipeline coming out of Westland, Wayne, to Michigan Tech, and you've got them. What could you be doing more of with industry at Michigan Tech or other higher ed or community colleges for that matter too?
Yeah, so we want to continue to build that stickiness, that engagement with the industry partners. We want to, that in some cases that's internships and maybe traditional co-ops, but we want to deepen it, and we want to have students be working with those companies early on. We want to be working with you on our curriculum. That's a sort of a sticky subject, right? I mean, but we definitely want our curriculum to be influenced by what your needs are. We need to bend more than we have bent in the past to make sure that we're preparing the talent going forward. We need to make sure that we give students those experiential activities, those high engagement activities, so they can really put into practice what they've learned. And we need your help creating those opportunities.
Okay. So now that they've graduated from Michigan Tech, now you've got them. And you talked a little bit about what you need, but we also talked kind of in preparation, what do companies need to do? What do the companies need to do to make them more attractive, the cultures? You know, I know you've seen a lot. I know that Raj and your company is trying to be as progressive as you can, have done some pretty neat things. But once you've got them, how do we get more of them? How do we keep them?
Yeah, good question. So I'm really probably enough what Dennis says. We have to think different. We have to, bend the rules a little bit. I think the automotive industry historically has been a little tough to get into if you didn't have a degree in engineering, if you didn't have some certain technical background. And I think getting downstream, as you said, my son's 11 years old, and he came last week, and part of this robotics thing that he's involved in, he built a little mini autonomous remote control car, and he demonstrated to me in our house and how he had programmed it, and it was bumping into walls, and it would turn around and go. And he's in 5th grade, and I thought, holy cow, like he's solving a problem that I'm trying to solve, inside Multimatic in some degree with this electrification and all the things going on there. So I think thinking downstream, and then also, empowering the individuals when they come into our company at a young age. It's amazing to me the clock speed at how quickly the younger generation can learn. I guess it's a sign I'm getting old, but I think we do need to think differently about our processes and procedures and how we can change them to adapt younger talent coming in and getting in that downstream pipeline. And maybe even, you saw the announcement from General Motors relaxing some of the degree requirements, right? I think that's the right track of thinking differently if we really want to move fast.
Yeah, there's a company here, CGI, that we've gotten to know that's been recently joined MICHauto, and Bernie lives in Pittsburgh. He's not with us, but his people are. I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago, and he just said, look, at our company, we believe this is the way it's going to be, that 75% of our talent is going to come from traditional pipelines, universities, higher ed, but 25%, it's going to come from very non-traditional, and Charlie referenced it a little bit, coding academies. I mean, my dad talks about how he, goes on YouTube tutorials all the time. I mean, how many people do that to figure out how to do something? Everybody does, right? But Dennis, just kind of back to you real quick. Do you think that what do you think about that model or percentage?
Oh, so, we have a real opportunity here in Michigan with so much engineering talent, high-tech, well-trained STEM and talent in general, that we can reskill and upskill those folks for the software and computer science jobs going forward. We're working really hard to that. We just created a global campus at Michigan Tech, and other universities are doing very similar things. We've had discussions with Michigan Central and others around how do we help be more engaged in that upskilling and reskilling space. Some of it's for credit. Most of it will not be for credit, where we can be more agile and nimble and responsive.
So got them through K-12. We got them through university. They work for a company. But you guys, Ford, Michigan Central, you're creating an ecosystem that's really unique and really important. How about a Michigan Central update, and how are things going?
Yeah, things are going really well. We're moving quickly and getting the buildings, the first few buildings open. One opening later this year, and then another one opening mid next year. And in the meantime, we're pulling together a lot of the core pieces that we'll need to make this ecosystem and create a place for the future of mobility in society. And so those big things being first, like bringing together all the right stakeholders. So as Trevor kind of alluded to, we've brought in Google to be a founding partner with us to help design to help train the future workforce in some senses. We've brought together the state of Michigan and the city of Detroit to kind of help us enable startups that come here to be able to launch their services in Michigan. And then we're also bringing together the right startups and other founding partners and academic partners as well. We are also focused on creating the place that solutions can be built. So creating state-of-the-art prototyping spaces that people can come and build prototypes of what they want to create, and then also test them. So with the city of Detroit, we've launched a transportation innovation zone around Michigan Central, so we can safely fast-track a process for pilots to come and test here, which is something that only exists in a few other cities in the US. So that's something that's really unique and could create a destination for companies to come test in. And then the last thing is we're starting to think through what are the skills that we need to develop, how can we create a learning platform that helps enable what these future mobility companies are creating, and what are the skills that we want to help train the workforce on here at Michigan Central.
So just so everybody knows, so there's a couple buildings over there, but the first one to open is not going to be the big train station.
Correct.
The first one to open is going to be?
The first one to open will be the book depository, and so that's really going to be the innovation hub of the district. And so the book depository is where there will be 11 different prototyping shops where companies can come build, the future of mobility. There will also be co-working space for startups, also larger company like R&D teams that want to be based there, to kind of all come work together and collaborate around the future of mobility. Because we definitely know, these big problems we're facing can't be solved by one company alone. They need collaboration, they need partnerships, and so by creating an open working place, we're hoping to help facilitate those kind of spontaneous interactions, and then also planned interactions.
So I'd like to get all of your input on the idea of why and how important community and placemaking is to this talent equation. Our map up in our diagram, that was actually done by a student at Northern Michigan University, and we have more fresh water than anywhere in the world, right? We have a beautiful state, we have beautiful communities. There are things that need to be in those communities, like the right water systems and infrastructure and broadband and things like that. But I'd like to hear from all of you, we'd like to hear from all of you about how important community and place is to talent attraction, how they work together. Roshni, you wanna go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, everything we're creating at Michigan Central is really creating a place for a new place for the community to come, interact, work. And so the whole ground floor of the train station is going to be open to the community, and it's actually, we see it as connecting two communities, right? So north of the station is Corktown, and south of the station is Southwest Detroit. And historically, the back of the station was actually never open, so people couldn't cross through. But now with the train station, we're creating a place where you can actually walk from one neighborhood to the next through the station, in a place that has brand new restaurants, places to sit, meet, interact, for the whole community. We're also creating over 11 acres of public parks on the mobility platform behind the train station. So really what we're doing is creating beautiful spaces for the community to come interact as well. Great.
And what are your thoughts about community and place with regards to raising a family and living and working and playing in Michigan?
Well, obviously schools have been epicenters of community for a really long time. Yep. But we have been learning from watching things that are happening in our area. So we're creating more unique spaces where it used to be the football fields that perhaps community came together. We are modeling what we're learning from industry and opening up innovation centers in all of our elementaries that will have drop-in hours that have some of the same equipment that will be in your spaces. So mills, 3D printers, et cetera, just to get that kind of innovation into families. So even families that perhaps don't have a parent that's in the engineering field, the kids can maybe guide the parents, and the parents can then see the light, and it's not such a distance between where the kid is pursuing and going and the parents' understanding of where they need to be.
That's cool. I did not know about that. So you're going to have these in all the schools?
We are working on it.
Or a good portion of them.
This is one of my newest initiatives in the last couple of weeks. So we will be opening our first one in the fall, thanks to a nice grant that we just received.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you open to other industry partners who might want to get involved too?
We would love industry partners that would like to sponsor us.
All right, teeter up. So what do you think about community and place? You've been in several, and now you're in one of my favorite places in the world, but different. But people do want to live there and work there and play there.
So there's a group within the Keweenaw Peninsula, Remote Workforce Keweenaw. We have about 80 different individuals that have moved there over the past couple of years to be remote workers. which 80 is not a big number when you're thinking about from Detroit standards, but when you're thinking about from Houghton, it's significant. And we're trying to build that community and connectivity within the folks who are working there. When I think about space, living in Houghton, which really is heaven on earth in the summer, and if you play hockey or you ski, it's wonderful in the winter as well. When I
That's
think
11 months, then there's that
yeah.
1 month, right? Bad sledding in July.
It's not as bad as people let on.
I know.
So this is the 4th university I've worked at, and I have never seen the affinity for a university with the alumni that I see at Michigan Tech. And I've worked at other really good schools, and a lot of that is the place and the community and the connections they make. And so there's something to be said for our sort of remoteness and the community we build, the students interacting with faculty, students interacting with academic administrators, students interacting with each other and the community. And that's one of the special ingredients that's going to be hard for anyone else to reproduce that we have going for us.
You touched that right off the bat, right off the first comments about you grew up here, Michigander, you're proud of it, you love it here. We can leverage that more, can't we?
Absolutely. I think, if you look at the younger generation, and I have kids that I'm starting to experience this with now turning into teenagers, but they value experiences more than I probably did. I valued having a car, owning a house. That was my white picket fence, 4-bedroom house type of thing. They actually value experience more. So they'll pay $100 if they make 30. I saw say the other day, $30,000 a year guy will pay $150 for a dinner experience that they can push. So experiences matter to the younger generation. And when I think about Michigan right now, me personally, like what I'm doing in the next 2 months, I'll be up in Silver Lake Sand Dunes with a beautiful Lake Michigan in the dunes, bossing around. Actually, Raj will be joining me there. I look at where I was a couple of weeks ago up in Traverse City. I look at what the state has to offer, and I look at downtown Detroit right now and the experiential dining and the great restaurants that we have now. We have so much to offer in our state here. And I look at the value proposition as a young engineer, when I moved to Italy, what you can get for a cost of living here in Michigan, they can't touch that in California for what you get in terms of the experience in the state has to offer in terms of the Four Seasons and cider mills and donuts and all the stuff I grew up with. So I think we have a great value proposition. I think we got to keep mentioning it. The Pure Michigan campaign's been awesome, I think, at doing that, but I think we got to continue to do that as we interview young talent and get kids excited about what we have to offer here.
And I really liked Quentin's charge to us to be our own best cheerleader, right? We need to make sure people know this. At Michigan Tech, we've sort of had aw shucks, we want to be the best kept secret mentality for a really long time. But we're definitely sort of taking the muffler off and trying to be loud about what we do. But I agree that the whole state, we need to be talking about some of the great things that we have going on for us.
And well, when we have Michigan Central come to life, which it already is, and the Innovation District right over here by Little Caesars, and Tech Town, I mean, these are really important cores, but Grand Rapids is doing the same thing. Flint's been, if you've been to Flint, Flint's not the city downtown it used to be, right? And up in the UP and places like that. So it's really important for us to keep talking positively. But Michigan Central's, we want the world to know that, how long was that just the iconic piece of ruin, right? And now, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, it's such a cool story. And not being from Michigan, I don't have those personal memories growing up of, dropping a grandparent off at the train station or sneaking into the train station. But every person who I talk to and tell the project that I'm working on, you hear such cool stories. So to see that it was this iconic image of ruin for so long and now it's being transformed, I think is so exciting. And it's something the community is very excited about. So
great. Well, listen, we're going to wrap up here. Thank you all for taking the time to be here, for the work you do, for the support, the involvement you give to all of us that work with you. So we're going to turn it over to Jenny to wrap things up. But thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
for our panel.
Thank you, guys.
Please welcome the manager of Let's Detroit Engagement for the Detroit Regional Chamber, Jenny Orleski-Denny.
Hello, everybody. Really happy to be here today, although it is a little nerve-wracking following such awesome speakers, but I think that it was really timely in regards to setting up my discussion about Let's Detroit. So I'm here today to tell you a little bit more about the program, some of the updates that we have for you, and hopefully spark some interest in participating and getting involved. So just some background. Let's Detroit is a talent attraction and retention platform that connects young professionals and college students to careers, places to live, things to do, ways to volunteer, and just each other, so that they have that whole picture of what the region has to offer them once they do decide what are they going to do next and where are they going to live next. Really trying to focus on keeping them here. Because as you can see, 36% of college students end up leaving within a year of graduating. And that's some of what we've already heard today, is there's this huge talent pipeline issue. We're working our way up and then all of a sudden losing 36% of them. So the goal of Let's Detroit is to increase the number of college grads that stay in the Detroit region after graduation by 1% each year. And we do that not just by simply putting out marketing that says live here, because that's not what they're going to trust. We create authentic connections. We use the people that live here, that know what's going on here, to connect with those young talent and really promote that live, work, play messaging from their own perspective, their own real, unique perspective. And those young professionals also engage as ambassadors for the region. And they also serve as a resource to help attract talent to the Detroit region. And also, we have different pieces of Let's Detroit, which I'll get to in a second, that also can be used as relocating assistance for you, too. So if you have individuals looking to come to the area but have no idea, like, maybe that's not the right move for me, Let's Detroit can help you. So moving on, we have 3 different modes of engagement, first of which being ambassador engagement. So I kind of touched on that a little bit. So we have young professionals and also college students that act as that voice for the region. We have employment ambassadors that young talent can actually connect with online or in person during some of our events and ask questions about their different positions, their roles, their industries, their companies, and really get a feel for what really works for them. We actually have some employment ambassadors with us here today. So I'm not going to call you guys out, but if you end up mingling with them later, they can also kind of give you some insight on what that really entails. They're all volunteers, all of these ambassadors, so it's really just them putting out their passion for the area. We also have community ambassadors, and so they represent ways to make an impact and things to do in the region, and that's what they speak to, and they help provide content around that messaging. And then we also have campus ambassadors as well. And they, the campus ambassadors, we pay stipends to, and they help promote content to college campuses and their peers. And then we have Ask a Detroiter ambassadors as well, who answer messaging through a messaging app on our website. And questions can vary from, hey, my parents are coming into town, where should I take them to dinner? So those are our ambassadors. And then our second form of engagement is online engagement. So Ask a Detroiter, we have our blog content that features different industry content, such as workplace culture. We did a really cool one around Magna, which is one of our sponsors. We have a really large social media presence, and then our website, which actually features a job board, which I'll get into, and also a Find Your Place. So again, that relocation piece. And then our third piece of engagement is in person. And we have 4 different categories of events, professional development and networking opportunities or events. And one of those being a really cool event that we did in March around women leading in tech. And there was a panel and a networking reception. It was really cool, interesting to hear from those women. And it really sparked a lot of engagement from those that attended. Cultural and recreational events. So as you can see, that's a picture from a DCFC game. Investor company tours and meet and greets, and then university and student engagement. So that kind of falls under career fairs. So all those together help us produce, again, that authentic, real, unique perspective of what young talent can view or experience when they come to the region, when they come to live, work, and play. But we can't do that without our investors. So Let's Detroit is a sponsored-based program. And so in return, for those sponsors, we do offer exclusive opportunities, one of which being, I'm super excited about, we just launched this year, is a summer intern series. So that consists of 4 virtual professional development workshops, 2 opportunities to explore and learn about the region, and then 2 opportunities to network with companies and really grow their network. Another one is that job board that I mentioned, so that is exclusive to our investors, but you get a really cool new pool of applicants, and that is updated daily and synced with your job boards on your website. And then sponsor meet and greets, which is a really cool opportunity to showcase your facility, recruit new talent, meet one-on-one with job applicants, and also just connect with a whole community of people in that industry or that are interested in that industry. So those are some of the really cool, just a few of the really cool opportunities that we provide our investors. If you are interested in participating in Let's Detroit, please feel free to contact me. But we also have some sponsors here in the audience. Bosch is actually one of them. So if you happen to come across anybody, feel free to ask them. I'm sure they'd be happy to share with you their experience with Let's Detroit. But again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Check out the website, check out our social. It's really cool, and the program's growing every day, and we're really excited about it. And we really want to help the region address those talent issues and really grow and keep people here, because why would anybody want to leave? So thank you so much.
Please welcome back to the stage Glenn Stevens Jr.
So Jenny she's doing an incredible job. There's no doubt about that. She just launched this intern program, and she's gotten great response. So I'm walking by her desk yesterday, and she's going, oh my God. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? So I walk over, and she said, one of the OEMs didn't send it out to their interns, and literally her screen is just pinging. And like 60 interns were registering to be part of this program, like just yesterday from one of the OEMs. Starts with an F. No, it's great. I mean, we're really glad to have that involvement, but thanks, Jenny, for the update. It's a great platform. So I want to thank our sponsors again, and all of them make this event possible. They make MICHauto go, so we really appreciate it. I also want to thank our staff and our team, particularly Andrea Rayburn, who's the behind-the-scenes quarterback, but a marketing team, events team, sponsorship team, thank you. So let me just tie this up real quick, put a bow on it, give you a couple things to think about. So this isn't mine. I mean, you basically can look at anything that says, why does economic growth occur? And it occurs because there's a rise in labor force participation, there's a discovery of new resources, there's an increase in labor specialization, there's new technology, and there's increased trade. This is not new, this is centuries old. But the two themes here that are key to those are talent and innovation. And I think you heard quite a bit about that today, and these are the things we need to keep in front of us. So I heard this number from Doug Song up at Mackinac, and if you know Doug, you know Doug's very passionate about tech talent. 85 million jobs will potentially be displaced by the division of labor between humans, machines, and algorithms. But 97 million new roles will be created. So that means our people, the people that Quentin talked about, the ones we want to lift up, give opportunity to keep here, need to be in touch with the skills of the digital economy. Otherwise, there isn't that opportunity. So this is a busy chart, but I use this chart very frequently, and there's some of my colleagues, and Brittany, we talk about this chart a lot. This is real median household income over time. And at the top, you'll see some of those growth states. Lots of corporate headquarters, lots of knowledge-based jobs, lots of higher education. There is manufacturing there too. But those states, you can see where they're real median income. On the other side, states that are a little bit less developed are changing. Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, although it will be really interesting to see 10 years from now, or maybe even sooner, where Tennessee's gonna be because of things like I talked about right off the bat. But look where we sit, right in the middle. Why do we sit in the middle? Because we are both a heavy manufacturing, heavy tourism, heavy ag state, but we also have a strong R&D, heavy knowledge-based economy here. The question is, what takes us upward and not downward? And I would submit, and I think you heard it from the folks here today, that that's going to be the talent. And that's going to be the innovation that happens here, that spurs here, and that grows here. So I personally, and I know all of you, want to see us take that upward trajectory on this inflection point. And this mobility and electrification and connectivity one is a huge one for Michigan. And these are the factors and these are the things that we all need to be focused on. Startup innovation, electrification, software, Industry 4.0, the intersection of the outdoor industry and the mobility industry, all of that relies on tech talent, every single piece of it. So, I think we've heard some great analysis and some great study and some great input from people who believe in this place and who live here and work here and are really working it, because we need more people to want to live, work, and play here when it comes to the tech talent pipeline. And we know we've got the assets and the places to do it. We also know we have some big challenges, those numbers and those demographics that work against us. But I think it's safe to say that with people that come, and if you're not in the room, you're not part of the conversation, you're not part of the solution, so I'll finish with what I started. Thank you for being here today, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the evening, and thank you again for all you do to make a difference. Have a great night.
Thank you for attending the 2022 MICHauto Annual Briefing. This concludes the program.